When most people think about slavery, they imagine white Europeans capturing Africans, forcing them onto ships, and transporting them across the Atlantic. And while that did happen, there's another part of the story that almost never enters the conversation. Before many Africans ever saw a European ship, they had already been captured by other Africans. So here's the question. Why is this part of history so rarely discussed? And what happens to a society when it builds its understanding of history around partial truth? Human beings have a tendency to simplify history, especially painful history. We reduce complex events into heroes, and villains, victims, and oppressors. Because emotionally, simple stories are easier to carry. They give us clarity, they give us identity, they give us someone to blame. But history is almost never simple. And the deeper you study human civilization, the more uncomfortable reality becomes. The version of slavery most people learn about is emotionally understandable, but historically incomplete, because slavery did not begin with Europeans. It existed in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia, in Europe, and throughout human history. The uncomfortable truth is that slavery was not originally racial. It was tribal, economic, political, military, and often opportunistic. Long before European involvement in the transatlantic slave trade, many African societies already practiced forms of slavery. Rival tribes fought wars, prisoners were taken, human beings were traded. Some African kingdoms became extraordinarily powerful through this system. Kingdoms like Dahomey, the Ashanti Empire, and others participated in the capture and sale of human beings, sometimes for weapons, sometimes for wealth, sometimes for political alliances. Now, does this erase European responsibility? No, not even remotely. European powers industrialized slavery on a massive scale. They expanded it, profited from it, institutionalized it, and transported millions across the Atlantic under horrifying conditions. But acknowledging that reality should not require us to ignore the other one. So, why does this conversation make people uncomfortable? Because history is not just information. History is identity. And once identity becomes emotionally attached to a narrative, questioning that narrative can feel like betrayal. Not disagreement, betrayal. Many people are not actually defending facts. They're defending emotional frameworks that help them explain suffering, and inequality, frustration, anger, and historical pain. And when a person's worldview becomes emotionally necessary, complexity becomes threatening. Partial truths are dangerous because they often feel completely true. That's what makes them powerful. If I tell a story that is technically accurate, but intentionally incomplete, I can shape how people think without technically lying. And over time, repeated narratives become psychological reality, especially when people stop questioning them. The issue is not whether racism existed, it did. The issue is not whether Europeans participated in slavery, they absolutely did. The deeper issue is why are certain parts of history constantly emphasized while other parts quietly disappear? Maybe the bigger lesson here has nothing to do with race. Maybe it has to do with human nature. Human beings have always conquered, enslaved, exploited, manipulated, and dominated each other across cultures, across religions, across continents, across time, which raises an uncomfortable possibility. What if the real danger is not understanding who oppressed us, but failing to understand the systems, the incentives, the fears, and psychological weaknesses that make oppression possible in the first place? Because mature understanding demands complexity, and complexity forces us to abandon comforting slogans. The truth is, multiple groups participated in slavery, multiple civilizations practiced it, multiple systems benefited from it. But modern conversations often reduce history into emotionally convenient categories: good people, evil people, permanent victims, permanent oppressors. Reality is rarely that clean. And maybe that's the real reason certain conversations feel dangerous. Because once people begin examining the narratives more deeply, they might start questioning much more than just history. So let me ask you, do incomplete historical narratives help societies heal, or do they keep them divided? Let me know what you think.